we cannot stay on this path for very long, given the kinds of challenges we face. And we just have to prove to ourselves and the world that we can govern ourselves again. I'm sure we can do it, but we need to take some steps to get there.
This is At Brookings, a weekly, in-depth look at issues behind the news. This week, America's divided political heart.
Has the nation's sharp political divide resulted from an America out of touch with its true values and proud history? In his book, Our Divided Political Heart, senior fellow E.J. Dionne writes that the U.S. is splintered indeed, and perhaps, he notes, looking back is the best way to close the divide and move forward.
Well, when I talk about our divided political heart, I'm talking about what we have been like from the very beginning of our country. And I argue that from the beginning we have been torn by a deep, but I think healthy tension between our love of individualism and our affection for community. It's a mistake. No one can deny that liberty and individualism is very much part of who we are. But I think that there has been a tendency, and it's especially marked now, to say that's all we are. When in fact we're much more interesting people than that, because we have also always yearned for community and understood that the only way you can preserve liberty is if we want to preserve each other's liberty. The only way to preserve liberty is to create a society that serves a common good. And I like to note that the very first word in our Constitution is the word we, not I, not some other word. It's we, the people of the United States. And the whole preamble describes common goals. Similarly, the Declaration of Independence starts with a ringing affirmation of rights, unalienable rights, that among these being life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. But it ends, at the very end, our founders are pledging their lives, their fortunes, and their sacred honor. And they're talking again about we are in this together.
So what's really at issue here is the role of government, right?
I think we're at a particular impasse right now because we have been governed under what I call in the book the long consensus, that after a period of radical individualism in the Gilded Age, the populists and the progressives said, no, this isn't who we are. We need to check concentrated economic power. We need a government that serves the common interest, not just particular interests. And we had about 100 years where we were, or more than 100 years really, where we were governed on the theory that there is a balance between individualism and community, and between state, the government and the marketplace, and between public and private. We had a cooperative sense that public and private could work together. Right now, I think that conservatism, which I write about very respectfully in the book, I think, and I think conservatives will see that, I hope, that conservatism has jettisoned all of its sort of communitarian side to defend a kind of radical form of individualism. What I see they're wanting to do in this incarnation is to bring us back to the Gilded Age that we revolted against more than 100 years ago, at the beginning of the last century.
You note that radical individualism actually denigrates the role of government and our quest for community.
In a sense, all of us are individualists. We're American individualists. We believe in our rights, our responsibilities, the need to improve yourself. That's different from radical individualism, which doesn't accept that we carry on these tasks in the context of a community. We carry on these tasks in the context of a nation that gives us opportunities we might not have somewhere else.
Why is it a necessary exercise, E.J., for us to take a really strong, hard look at our history in order to regain our balance?
My book is quite critical of the way the Tea Party reads our history. But at the very beginning of the book, I say thank you to the Tea Party for encouraging all of us to go back to our sources. Let us look at what was this country at its origin? Where were we headed? And that's why I explore the Constitution and Henry Clay and Alexander Hamilton. And again, it's a view critical of them because they're critical of their view, because I think if you look back at people like Hamilton, Clay, and Lincoln, you can't argue that government had nothing to do with the building of America, because all of them saw a very strong and important role for the federal government, as did the founders when they wrote the Constitution.
E.J., there's another intrinsically American value that you talk about, and that is equality. So where does it fit in? What is its role in all of this?
From the beginning, we've always believed that to really participate in the political system, people needed the basic resources of life. They needed to be able to earn a living. They needed to have some stake in the country. So our whole system falls apart if large numbers of Americans don't have that stake. And so I think equality operates not only equality under law, but something closer to equality of condition, not radical equality of condition, but enough of sort of sharing of prosperity that everybody's got a similar stake in the outcome.
This sort of malaise, E.J., that we're going through now seems to come, you note, when Americans feel that we as a nation are floundering or in some sort of decline. Why is that?
When we go through these declinist periods, we usually initially say, well, this is about something that's happening in the economy or something that's happening in foreign policy, but it quickly flips into a kind of spiritual crisis. And that's when we ask who we are, who have we been, what does our history teach us? We have fights about what our history teaches us. Now, those periods need not be negative in their character. That I think one of the reasons the Obama campaign in 2008 felt so much like a religious crusade is that because there was this spiritual crisis in the country, people were asking those kinds of questions. And I think when you look back at the kind of slogans he used, there's that famous poster of just his picture with the word hope underneath, or the famous change we can believe in slogan. I have always thought that the word believe was at least as important in that slogan as the word change, because Americans wanted to believe in America again. In the book, I argue that Obama is in a long line of politicians who did this. Reagan did it in 1980. One of his slogans was, let's make America great again. John Kennedy in 1960, let's get America moving again. And of course, FDR, we have nothing to fear but fear itself. So I think creative politicians can take those feelings of decline and turn them back into hope.
Stay up to date with the latest research, learn about Brookings events, and search our directory of experts. All from your mobile device. To download Brookings for your BlackBerry, Android, iPhone, or iPad, go to brookings.edu/mobile.